Chapter 1. Introduction to Emotional Intelligence. We are hardwired to be emotional creatures. These emotions happen in a split second before we are able to reason about them. What we do in response to our emotions dictates the outcome. We are taught the 3 R's in school, but we're not taught how to lead. We're not taught all the capacities that we possess that we can utilize to make the most of life, and emotional intelligence is absolutely one of these. Now, here's what most people don't know as a result of this. Emotional intelligence is distinct from your IQ. You can be high in emotional intelligence and also have a high IQ. You can be low in one and not the other, or low in both. They don't occur together in any meaningful way, despite the stereotype that people with high IQs have low EQs. Right? That's a stereotype because those folks stick out like a sore thumb. Another thing that people confuse with emotional intelligence is personality. Personality is a stable set of preferences and tendencies through which you approach the world. It's fixed at an early age, just like your IQ. So, if you're a hopeless extrovert at age 17, you can't expect that to change at age 40. And personality, it occurs in a part of the brain. That's what neurologists call crystallized. It's fixed. It's not responsive to change, just like IQ. Emotional intelligence, on the other hand, is an area of the brain. The pathway between your emotional and rational brains is highly plastic. What that means is it's flexible and responsive to change, and when you work on your emotional intelligence, your neurons will branch out to each other and increase the flow of information between the rational and emotional brains. This is the essence of emotional intelligence. There are 4 emotional intelligence skills, but the thing you need to know is that, statistically, it comes down to what you see as personal competence and social competence. Personal competence is about you, awareness of your own emotions and how you manage them. Social competence is about you with other people. It's how you're reading and responding to other people and what you do with that. The reason, statistically, there aren't 4 skills, it's just kind of 2, is because once you become aware of your emotions, once you take the blinders off, it's tough not to do something productive with them, and there are a lot of things that operate beneath our awareness. I'd like to show you one example. This is from a study that was conducted at a university of the Netherlands. In this study, they took people who had cortical lesions. These folks, their eyes worked perfectly. The optic nerves worked perfectly. They sent the signals back to the base of the brain to be processed, and the problem's there. They had cortical lesions. The brain didn't know what it saw, although the eyes physically saw it, so they're blind. What they did is, they put these people in front of computer screens, and they flashed images of people expressing strong emotions. When you do that with people with sight, there's mirror neurons in your brain that mirror the emotional state of other people, and you can't help but have a minimal emotional reaction. So, if I put an image of someone smiling big, you'll crack a smile. If someone furious, you'll furrow your brow a bit. You can't control it. The thing that freaked these researchers out is that these blind people were having the same reaction as people with sight. The same reaction. And it left them scratching their heads. How can this be? The brain cannot process what their eyes are seeing. They went back, and they further analyzed the MRIs, and what they found is that there's an alternate pathway in the brain. They found that, as the signals traveled down the optic nerve, They were branching out and sending signals to the limbic system. So these people didn't even know what they were seeing. They said to them, "Why did you crack a smile?" "I don't know. It was a hunch." "Why did you furrow your brow?" "I don't know." "Did you see something?" "No, dude, I'm blind. I didn't see anything." How many of you have walked into a room full of people, and you can just feel a mood in the room, even though you can't put your finger on it? These are the kind of emotional signals driving your brain. People who are highly emotionally intelligent are very tuned into them, and once you're tuned into them, they tend to produce the behavior that you want. Emotions are the principal driver of our behavior. Think about that picture I painted of the limbic system. It's at the base of the brain. Everything is traveling through it. So when you master your emotions, when you become aware of them and can manage them effectively, it trickles into everything you do. It trickles into how you manage stress, how you get to presentations, how you work in a team, how you make decisions. It's a foundational skill. Chapter 2: Understanding Emotional Intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the capacity of individuals to recognize their own and other people's emotions, to discriminate between different feelings and label them appropriately, to use emotional information to guide thinking and behavior, to manage emotions, and to adapt to environments or achieve one's goals. Emotional intelligence is sometimes referred to as the emotional quotient. For most people, emotional intelligence, EQ, is more expedient than one's intelligence, IQ, in attaining success in one's lives and careers. As an individual, your success and the success of the profession depend on your ability to read other people's signals and react appropriately to them. Therefore, every one of us must develop the mature emotional skills required to understand better, empathize, and negotiate with other people, precisely as the economy has become more global. Otherwise, we can't attain the success that we desire in our lives and careers. What is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is commonly defined as the ability to recognize and identify your own emotions and the emotions of others, and to use this information to guide behavior. It is one of the essential skills for a leader and a manager. Your IQ is the level of your ability to understand other people, what motivates them, and how to work cooperatively with them, says Howard Gardner, the influential Harvard theorist. Characteristics of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence as a construct has 5 parts that we're going to focus on. Now there's more to it than that, but there are the main ones that are very important. Number 1, self-awareness. With self-awareness, it leads to self-regulation. Self-regulation then goes to self-motivation, followed by empathy and interpersonal relationships. Now let's break those down briefly. Self-awareness. It is recognizing and understanding your own emotions. The capability to acknowledge an emotion as it happens is the key to your EQ. Developing self-awareness requires turning in to your true feelings, having an intrapersonal relationship of what causes them, what impact do your emotions have on others, an intrapersonal relationship of what impact of others' emotions have in return, within that same interpersonal relationship, and then on the world. So intrapersonal issue is you. Interpersonal is between you and one other person, your team, your family, and the world. If you evaluate your emotions, you can manage them. The significant elements of self-awareness are emotional awareness, to have the ability to recognize your own emotions and their effects. Self-confidence, having the sureness about your self-worth and capabilities. Self-regulation, the ability to communicate your feelings, beliefs, and thoughts openly. The ability to defend your rights, your boundaries, and your values. However, just saying no or defending it doesn't mean that you've got self-regulation. You do this in a socially acceptable, non-offensive, and non-destructive manner. Often, there is a little control when individuals are experiencing emotions. However, you can determine how long an emotion will last by engaging some number of techniques to alleviate negative emotions such as depression or anxiety. Some of these techniques include recasting a situation in a more positive light, taking a long walk and meditation or prayer. The following involves self-regulation, self-control, managing disruptive impulses, conscientiousness, taking responsibility for your performance, adaptability, handling change with flexibility, trustworthiness, maintaining standards of honesty and integrity, innovation, being open to new ideas. Self-motivation. It is the effect of being a lifelong learner. It's the willingness to persistently try to improve yourself, engage in the pursuit of personally relevant and meaningful objectives, thereby causing you to have a prosperous and enjoyable life. To motivate yourself for any achievement, you need a clear goal and a positive attitude. With effort and practice, you can learn to think more positively. If negative situations occur to you, you can reframe them in more positive terms, and when you do that, it propels you to achieve your goals. Motivation is made up of achievement drive, the ability to continually striving or improving to meet a standard of excellence. Commitment, making yourself to align with the goals of the group or organization. Initiative, getting yourself equipped to act on opportunities. Optimism, to keep pursuing goals consistently irrespective of the goals and setbacks. Empathy, it's the ability to understand and appreciate another person's feelings and thoughts to the point you can articulate your understanding of their perspective. The ability to comprehend the feelings of others is very crucial to success in your life and career. The more skillful you are at discerning other people's feelings and signals, the better you become to control the signals you send them. Being empathetic, you excel at developing others. You are sensitive to what others need to progress and bolstering their abilities. Service orientation, the ability to anticipate, recognize, and meet clients' needs. Leveraging diversity, possessing the capacity to cultivate opportunities through diverse people. Political awareness, reading a group's emotional currents and power relationships. Understanding others, it is the capacity to discern the feelings behind the needs and wants of others. Interpersonal relationships, it's the ability to develop and maintain mutually satisfying relationships, keep them on based on mutual trust and respect. To experience success in your life and career, the development of interpersonal skills is tantamount. In today's always connected world, almost everyone gains access to technical knowledge. Therefore, people skills are very vital now, because you must have a high EQ to understand better, empathize, and negotiate with others in a global economy. The most useful skills in an interpersonal relationship are influence, wielding effective persuasion tactics, communication, knowing how to send clear messages, leadership, providing the inspiration and guidance to people and groups, conflict management, the ability to understand, negotiate, and resolve disagreements, change catalyst, having the skill to initiate change or manage change, building bonds, knowing how to nurture effective relationships, collaboration and cooperation, the capacity to work with others toward shared goals, team capabilities, taking advantage of having a group synergy in pursuing collective goals. We've covered the basic ideas of self-awareness, self-regulation, self-motivation, empathy, and interpersonal relationships. When you possess these characteristics, then, you are equipped to succeed in life and career. Difference between intelligent quotient and emotional quotient. You must understand that there is a real difference between IQ and EQ. IQ is a measure of intelligence, and for our purposes, I define IQ as the ability to learn and solve problems effectively. For example, high IQ would help you learn and use a new computer program efficiently, whereas low IQ might prevent you from doing so. Emotional intelligence, or EQ, has been defined in many ways, but for better clarification, I define EQ as the ability to possess painful emotions in healthy and effective ways. For example, high EQ might enable you to cope with the pain of losing a job by talking with trusted friends or family, practicing self-care skills, allowing yourself to grieve the loss of the job, and employing problem-solving skills for finding a new job. Low EQ, on the other hand, might cause you to deal with your pain by drinking or drugging, self-cutting, catastrophizing, beating up on yourself, and falling into hopelessness. Therefore, EQ is about one's ability to process painful emotions, whereas IQ is about one's ability to learn and solve problems. Some intelligent people keep making the same dumb mistakes because their low EQ has turned their high IQ into a slave. Now, let's see how that happens by definition. Low EQ means that one uses ineffective strategies for dealing with emotional pain. But why would someone continue using these strategies if they don't work? Because low EQ strategies such as drinking, overeating, or avoidance often do ease the pain in the short run, but in the long run they increase pain. For example, John deals with the stress of his job by getting drunk every night, which certainly numbs his pain. But over time, it also alienates his wife and children and negatively impacts his work attendance and job performance. The key point is this. For a high IQ person with low EQ like John, if the emotional need for immediate relief from emotional pain becomes great enough, then John's high IQ becomes the slave to his low EQ's needs by rationalizing that the drinking helps while denying any negative consequences from it. It is well known that many intelligent people become addicted to drugs, gambling, porn, and other compulsive behaviors, and their low EQ explains why, because even though their addiction is destroying them, their hijacked IQ uses denial to convince them they're doing just fine. Addiction is an extreme example of an emotional need overriding high IQ, so let's look at a more subtle example everyone knew. John was a smart guy, but he came from a difficult childhood. His father abandoned the family when he was 6, and then his mother used alcohol to cope, and was often irritable and critical of John, which caused him much pain. So he adapted to this abusive environment by never admitting to making a mistake to avoid the pain of his mother's wrath. Over time, this rule became subconscious and automatic, something he followed in every situation, where he might be criticized, of course never admitting a mistake. This is a low EQ strategy. It's bearded. John has some pain in the short run, but in the long run, it caused more problems. Whenever he received poor grades, he blamed the teachers. Whenever he made mistakes at work, he blamed his boss. Whenever he treated his wife poorly, he blamed her. John's emotional need to never admit being wrong overruled his IQ. So he was incapable of learning from his mistakes, and thus became doomed to making the same mistakes over and over. Here is the crucial point. We all make mistakes, which is not a problem. That's how we learn. But if you are a smart person who has a pattern of making the same mistake over and over, then there is an emotional need that is preventing your high IQ from learning from those mistakes. Chapter 3. The Role of Emotional Intelligence for Career Success. Do you know that when it comes to career success, people with average IQs outperform people with high IQs 70% of the time? And did you know that you can't develop your IQ, but that you can develop the trait that's necessary for success? The attribute you need to develop is your EQ, or your emotional intelligence. EQ is the single most significant factor to predict life success. It has zero correlation with IQ and is the most active driver of leadership and personal excellence. A fascinating Forbes article states, all the people we've studied at work, we found that 90% of top performers are also high in emotional intelligence. On the flip side, just 20% of those whose performances are at the bottom has high emotional intelligence. It is possible to be a top performer without actual emotional intelligence, but the chances are minimal. Naturally, people with a high degree of emotional intelligence make more money, an average of $29,000 more per year than individuals with a low measure of emotional intelligence. The connection between emotional intelligence and incomes is so linear that every point increment in emotional intelligence adds $1,300 to a yearly salary. These data hold true for individuals in all industries and every level, in all spheres of the world. We are yet to find a job in which performance and pay are tied closely to emotional intelligence. Despite that, we humans figured out what's the most critical skill for successes. There appears to be not a single school that teaches this skill, so I guess emotional intelligence is one of the things we have to teach ourselves. 3 components of emotions. Every emotion produces different physiological responses within the body, which can include distinct changes, patterns of brain activation, neurotransmitter production, and autonomic nervous system activity. Let me use you as an example. Let's say you're standing here minding your own business in a room, and then all of a sudden, everyone jumps out and surprises you because it happens to be your birthday. You, the individual, may have a distinct physiological reaction. Your heart rate may increase as a result of being startled. Your muscles may be temporarily tensed and then relaxed, and your skin temperature may increase as well at the same time. Secondly, cognitive processes are going on as well that are very different from person to person and culture to culture. Cognitive reactions are mental assessments that can include appraisals of what is happening, expectations about the situation, and general thoughts about the experience. So in this example, with a surprise party, someone who has been to a surprise party before, you may have the expectation that it'll be fun, or they might be thinking about the people who are there, or maybe just saying, "Oh my God." Because they're so surprised, this is an example of a cognitive experience happening as a result of emotions. These cognitive experiences can also bring about emotions. For instance, if you happen to think about how much you dislike parties, I don't know why, but if you don't like parties for some reason, you might feel like dread at the prospect of a surprise party of joy, and that emotion was brought on by your cognitive experience. Lastly, each emotion produces different behavioral responses, which can be evident in body language or facial expression. So, in our surprise example, an individual may smile, clap their hands in delight, or open their arms to hug their friends and relatives. These expressions vary by individual and can be interpreted differently in culture to culture. So emotions are made up of cognitive, behavioral, and physiological changes that are all interrelated. What else do we know about emotion? First, emotions are temporary. They have relatively clear beginnings, in relatively short duration, unlike moods, which can last much longer and are not necessarily discrete. Secondly, emotions can be negative or positive. Example, somebody can be happy, sad, angry, or delighted. Along those same lines, emotions can vary in intensity. So a person can experience a little bit of sadness or a deep feeling of depression. They can be extraordinarily ecstatic or just a little pleased. Lastly, emotions generally are involuntary, meaning that you can't decide what you will experience, which is why we use these phrases such as someone falls in love, or explodes with rage, or is overwhelmed with excitement. These expressions illustrate how emotions are involuntary. With all that in mind, here's a question for you. How many emotions are there? Well, the answer is probably an infinite number. But a researcher named Paul Ellman found that there are a special set of 6 emotions that can be easily identified by individuals all around the world. And these are known as universal emotions. These universal emotions are happiness, sadness, fear, disgust, anger, and surprise. You might be wondering why they called them universal emotions. Now, they aren't called universal emotions because everyone feels in the same way. They're called universal emotions because they have constant facial expressions across cultures. So, they're easily recognizable no matter what cultural background you come from. Now, here's another question to consider. Why were these emotions be universally identifiable? Well, the answer comes to us from Charles Darwin. You probably know of Darwin and his studies in evolution. Darwin hypothesized that the ability to express and understand emotion is an innate ability, and it helped individuals to act in ways that gave them a better chance of survival. So emotions have adaptive value, and this makes a lot of sense. Think about a newborn baby. If they're surprised or frightened, they often react in ways that are very similar to how grown-ups act. But newborn babies are brand new to the world. They've never been taught how to do these things. Their bodies react that way. And what's really interesting is that individuals who have been blind their entire lives and have never been able to see what a human face looks like, they also have similar facial expressions to people who can see, even though they've never even seen a smile or a frown. And this also supports the idea that the expression of some emotions is innate. So when it comes to emotions, think of the 3 components: the cognitive, the physiological, and the behavioral. And remember that universal emotions exist. Chapter 4: Identifying Your Own Emotions. How good are you at identifying your emotions? Let's say that you have a little incident at work, and the boss shouts at you in front of everybody. How do you feel? Do you just get enraged and say, "Oh my God, I'm so pissed off"? That is anger. Is the only emotion you know, or are you able to actually look at the situation and identify other emotions? How many emotions can you name that might have occurred in that one situation? Was there embarrassment or shame? Maybe there was guilt associated there, or sadness. Being able to identify your emotions, both negative and positive, helps you in your personal development. The ability to name your emotions helps you know when you need to deal with something. Just being pissed or angry is not enough. You have to be able to go beyond that. In that situation, there was a little bit of embarrassment there. And why was there embarrassment included in that situation? Well, maybe you had some memories from your past about embarrassment. Maybe there are multiple layers of stories where somebody shouted at you and it caused you embarrassment. Now, knowing that there's real embarrassment and not just anger helps you to deal with those stories about embarrassment. That makes sense. How about layering on and being able to name better emotions instead of just saying, "I feel good today"? When somebody says, "Hey, how are you doing?" and you go by responding, "Oh, good." Maybe you're feeling peaceful and at peace with the world. Maybe you're feeling elated. A whole other level of feeling could have occurred. Perhaps you're feeling enthusiastic and you have anticipation. There are so many different emotions that triggered that response of good or bad. The ability to label your emotions is a step in being able to manage them. There are various ways to identify what emotion you are experiencing. Some of the ways are: discovering the root. Trace the cause of what you were doing or thinking or what was happening when you first felt the emotion. The root of the emotion is often a clue to what emotion you are experiencing. If you were turned down for a job, that might be the cause to why you are feeling bad, or because your friend told you she couldn't make it to the planned movie night. Definitely, you will be sad. Often, people say they can't recall anything happening. If you see yourself in such circumstances, then think about what you were doing, who you were talking to, and what you were talking about, etc., at the time you first felt the emotion. Remembering as many details of the way you were spending time before you felt the emotion will often cause you to recall what triggered the feeling. If you are not still certain when you first felt the emotion, trace back to when you knew you were not feeling it. Were you feeling this emotion at breakfast, when at work, or at a lunch break? Then, one step after the other, look at what you did, what you heard, and what you thought since the last time you know you were feeling the emotion. As you do these things, you should be able to know what causes that emotion. Where do you feel the emotion physically? We experience physical sensations as part of our emotional experience. Often, fear is found in the belly, anger in the shoulders, back, and face, and sadness is in the chest, and maybe in the throat. Be sensitive to your body sensations and what happened before you experienced the emotion. That information will help you identify what you are feeling. What is your expected action? Emotions offer you information, and there is often an action associated with the emotion. What is the action you are planning to take due to that emotion? With shame, you have the urge to hide and avoid eye contact. With fear, there is an urge to fight or defend yourself, or run, or you are paralyzed. With anger, the desire to attack is always there. Your proposed action will give you a clue to what you might be feeling. Numbing your emotions. It is challenging to point out your feeling if you are using food, other substances, or activities. For example, self-harm, excessive shopping, obsessing, or excessive exercise, to numb your feelings. Desist from numbing your emotions, even if it takes you long to do so. It will help you to recognize the feeling. If there is a great urge to involve in some numbing activities, think of what emotion you might be having. What is your thought? Most times, your thoughts reflect your feelings. The Bible says, "As a man thinks in his heart, so is he." If you are thinking how blessed you are likely to be happy. If you think you don't want your friend to leave you, there is the likelihood that you will be sad. Therefore, watch over your thoughts. Consider multiple choices. Having a list of emotions, look through the various options. At times, people identify their emotion when they have choices. You can have someone guess what emotion you might be feeling instead of using written lists. Don't forget that you can have more than one emotion at a time. Get feedback from someone as to what emotion you are likely experiencing. Most times, body language communicates emotions, mostly facial expressions. You may want to behold your face in the mirror, or have others tell you what emotion is being reflected on your face. Nevertheless, sometimes individuals who have grown up in invalidating families have learned to mask their feelings, and as a result, their feeling doesn't reflect on their face. Ask others to put themselves in your shoes. Find out from others what emotions they would experience if they were in your situation. Some situations result in the same emotions for most individuals. While you may or may not undergo the exact emotions as others, given what happened, being aware of how others would react emotionally can be of great help. Often, all these ideas listed above will work, but some other times, you won't be able to identify what you are feeling. It takes practice to identify your feelings. Chapter 5. What to do if you can't feel your emotions. Emotions are like a compass. Just like an actual compass tells you where you are in space, your emotions tell you what your personal vibration is. Knowing your personal vibration then allows you to know how to increase that personal frequency so as to go in the direction of your desires. Also, your emotions are your doorway to your subconscious mind, to what's limiting you from getting to where you desire. Therefore, not being in touch with your emotions is the same as not having a compass, and being stranded out in the middle of the sea. Naturally, people want to feel good, and if you left them to their own devices, they would gravitate in the direction of what felt good. However, our wires get a bit crossed during the process of socialization. During the process of socialization, we learn that many things that feel good are in fact bad, and many things that feel bad are in fact good according to the social group that we grow up in. And when this happens, we develop. If your compass is screaming at you, you're going in the wrong direction, and you're going to keep going in that direction. You have to tune out the compass to compound things further. Because we do not collectively understand what emotions are and what purpose they serve, we are primarily living in an emotional dark age. This means that society has made emotions of a bad thing. What that means is that during the process of socialization, children are punished for having certain emotions, and as a result, they dissociate from, reject, deny, and disown these emotions. Then they grow up to suppress these emotions and deny the fact that they even have them. Generally, people struggle with their emotions. They don't understand what emotions are, and they strive to relate to their own emotions. So it's kind of epidemic. However, there is a small percentage of persons on the planet are even more disconnected than the general group. These are people who are so detached from their own emotions, who ignored their internal compass to such a degree as if they cannot even feel emotion. Now, this is a major problem, because obviously, if you want to know how to heal your life, if you want to know what direction to go in to feel better, but you can't feel at all, you're lost in the middle of the sea without a compass. So it's almost like the healing that needs to take place in their life to go in the direction of what feels good, to manifest the things that they desire is held up. It can't even occur until they get in touch with their emotions. The initial thing you need to realize is that the emotional system can't break. So, your body is continuously informing you about what emotions you feel regardless of whether or not you are actually listening. This is good news for those of you who feel like you can't feel. It means that you don't have to try to get emotions to occur in the body. They're already occurring. All you have to do is start noticing that they're occurring. What has occurred in reality is that the compass has started to scream at you and has probably been screaming at you for years that you're going in the wrong direction, and you've ignored it. So much so that you don't even recognize it anymore when it's talking to you. In other words, you do not need to work on getting your body to feel as if something is broken. What you need to do is to train your consciousness to perceive again. When someone is first learning to ski, they cannot feel the fluctuations of the conditions below their skis. An expert would be able to feel every tiny little nuance. For example, the conditions of the snow and those nuances would not feel minor. They would feel major to somebody who is an expert. But to a novice, it's not perceivable. It's only when you start to practice tuning into those nuances that they become loud instead of very soft. Emotion works in this same way. What may seem subtle to you, to begin with, 2 years down the road, will seem like a siren. Also, I have stated here that it is prevalent if you identify yourself as someone who can't feel. You don't recognize the feeling as feeling. For example, you feel frustrated that you can't feel your feeling, not realizing that the frustration in itself is a feeling that's occurring in your body somewhere. Otherwise, you wouldn't even know you're frustrated. So what should you do if you feel like you can't feel, and you want to learn how to feel? The first thing you have to understand is that the world, in general, approves the mind and disapproves of emotions. Emotions are messy, right? So we don't like those things. What happens is that we are terrified of emotions. If we grow up in a society that says that these things are bad, and you have to be good to be a part of us, we are going to try to do anything we can to hide from those things. We naturally develop a fear of our own emotion. So, what do you do if you're afraid of your own emotion? When you're a small child and you can't escape from your own body, you disconnect from your own body. You dissociate. You escape with your focus. You put all of your focus, which is consciousness, either in the outside world, outer to you, or into your thoughts. This is what it means when a person says you're stuck in mind. Pretty soon, only your subconscious rules over your body, and consciously, you are disembodied. To invert this, you have to delegate to the practice of bringing your focus back to the body. Emotions may seem abstract when you don't feel because chances are you're conceptualizing of emotions. What you have to understand about emotions is that emotions are nothing more than sensations that have been named. When we say we have anxiety, what does that mean? It means that our chest feels constricted. It means that inside we feel this constrained, racing sensation. We may feel heat somewhere in our body. These uncontrollable urges of sensations, when they reacted to certain experiences, that they decided to call it anxiety. The primary reason people can't feel is that they can set the size of the idea of anxiety, but do not relate to emotions regarding sensations that take place in their body. This is probably going to be the toughest part for those of you who can't feel to accept. Even though you stand in front of someone like me, a teacher or psychologist or whatever, and you say, "I want to learn how to feel again." You have to realize there's a big part of you that wants nothing to do with emotions, nothing to do with feeling. Because there's a link between the two in your mind, you would feel unless there is a negative consequence associated with feeling. So the time has come to face this fear. And how do you do it? By admitting that this is what's going on with you, that there is this part of you that doesn't want to feel, that this is how your being is coping. Then you consciously make a choice to avoid emotions completely, or you consciously make a choice to feel feelings. And to do that, you've got to dredge up and face all the things you're trying to escape from. You've got to release your resistance to being out of control. You can also picture the worst-case situation of being totally out of control as a result of feeling, and use the sensation of that fear as your doorway for the completion process, so as to discover what trauma that fear is coming from and resolving it. Another point is that sometimes the unwillingness to feel comes from the fact that in our society, if all emotions aren't disapproved of, usually the negative emotions are disapproved of. So it's not okay to feel bad, and yet you do so. The first thing you have to realize is that it's more than okay not to feel good. As a society, we have an obsession with feeling good, as if there's some sort of failure that took place, or something's really wrong with you if you don't feel good at all. So, first thing I want you to start looking at is your concept around feeling. Emotion itself is negative, because chances are, if you can't feel, you've made emotion wrong. The next point is for you to do things that are radically new. Get way outside your comfort zone. Take on challenges. You have to shake up your system so as to experience different sensations. When you acclimatize to your current life, you don't experience noticeable changes in your feelings. This has been your subconscious way of gaining control. So try new activities, do different kinds of art and self-expression, travel to different places, meet different people, try activities where you will experience new sensations, and pay close attention to those new sensations you experience as a result of doing those things. Another point is circling back a tiny bit to what we previously discussed to not even realizing, or you can't feel emotions. You, in fact, avoid things that cause you to feel emotions. You are unaware of how avoidant you are of things you want to avoid, or face especially those things that cause you to feel strong emotion. You also subconsciously have all kinds of coping techniques to avoid and escape from feeling. So if you want to feel, what should you do? Throw yourself into experiences you would normally avoid because they cause emotions. This means spend some time around people that annoy the hell out of you and cause you to feel emotions. Watch movies that evoke strong sensations within your being. What I want you to do when you're doing these activities that you would normally avoid is, I want you to feel how horrible it feels. Feel that part of you that resists it in every way. Once you leave the movie theater and you want to walk away from that friend, watch for your coping mechanisms in the way that you shut down your emotion. When you're in scenarios that cause emotion to arise, choose consciously not to engage in these coping mechanisms, but to feel them and observe them instead. The next point is if you can't feel, chances are you are based in your mind. You're attached to your mind as to what you feel and confident with. It's not necessarily a negative thing, it's just because it's an overcompensation that's no longer healthy. But your mind is going to prevent you from getting into your emotions because the ego tells it, "Rescue me out of this crap, it's going to get me in trouble." Basically, your mind has been trying to save you from emotions, which means it's a good idea for you to get your mind enrolled in participating in you feeling emotions. For that reason, let your mind learn about emotions. The mind and the emotion are like two separate languages. You can use your mind to go to work to help you or enable you to learn to speak the language of emotion. So instead of trying to suppress, reject, and reduce on your mind, just start to bring it in so that there's more coherence between your mind and the emotion. When you learn how to engage all these points, you will be able to feel your emotions. Chapter 6. Reasons you lose control of your emotions. Imagine that you really want to play soccer at lunchtime, but when the bell rings, you can't find your shoes. When you finally get out to the field, the teams have been picked, and it's too late for you to play. Maybe you got so mad that this small issue became a big problem. When we lose control of our emotions like this, we can call it flipping your lid, kind of like the way a pot might do if it was too full and too hot. A little while later, after you've cooled down, you might even feel sad. When you realize, when you had a big reaction to a little problem, you could have hurt someone's feelings. What if I told you that this happens to everyone? Your parents, friends, teachers, and everyone else you know can flip their lid and lose control of their emotions. Sometimes, we all need to work on managing our feelings. Have you ever wondered why we can have such a hard time keeping our emotions under control? It can be really tough being a kid these days. There's just so much going on every day at home, at school, even after school. Sometimes it's difficult to keep a lid on things and react in ways that are not kinder, caring, even though we don't mean to be hurtful. There are so many situations that we encounter every day that can cause our emotions to bubble up. Maybe you felt upset or frustrated when you were working on a problem or activity at school and just can't seem to get it right. Maybe something unexpected or embarrassing happened to you in front of your friends. Maybe you had something important to say, but didn't get a chance to say it. These, and many more situations, can cause both kids and adults to flip their lids. So why does this even happen? This has to do with the way our amazing human brains work to help keep us safe. It is the part of your body that controls everything you do. Let's take a closer look at the parts of the brain and how they can work together to help us keep a lid on things. The brainstem controls the things at the bodies, so that we don't have to think about, like breathing. It also controls our automatic reactions to certain situations. For example, if you put the cup with hot tea in it, and it's too hot, your brain feels the pain and will pull your hand away to stop you from getting burned. It's an automatic reaction. You don't have to stop and think about what to do. Imagine you're out on the hike, and a bear wanders into the path. Your brain doesn't stop and think about what kind of bear it is and to know if it is friendly. The moment you notice that you feel scared, and in a split second, You decide whether or not you should fight, fly, or run away, or freeze. Because of the way your brain reacts to these situations, you can think of it as your emotional pain, because it reacts instantly without needing to think things through. It's always ready to take charge in any situation to help keep you safe. The cerebral cortex part of our brain helps us think logically, act with kindness, and think about how others might be feeling. It's also the problem-solving part of our brain. It helps us to think of possible solutions to a problem and decide which one is best. The brain first is the logic and reasoning part of the brain that springs into action when we have a problem to solve, and usually it does a great job of doing it, but sometimes it can have a hard time solving a problem. If the emotional brain and speaking brain can communicate well enough, this can happen if your emotions get too overwhelming. Your brain decides that this situation might be dangerous even if it isn't. And we all know what happens when your brain thinks you're in danger. It triggers your fight, flight, or freezes. Your emotions start to bubble up, and then suddenly everything boils over. We flip our lids. This can look like a scary, angry reaction, or it might be crying or running away from a problem. When our lives are flipped, our brain can't talk to each other. Our emotions have become too strong, and we can't think clearly and peacefully cancel the problem. So what can we do to stop us from flipping our lid? Well, it all starts with realizing that we're about to flip our lid, and then turning down the heat so it doesn't happen. Remember that soccer game we talked about at the beginning? You were really upset and didn't get to play. Maybe your tummy rumbled or you felt your face is getting hot. Did your heart start to pound? And did you feel your hands start to clench? Were you frustrated, disappointed, or angry? These types of strong feelings are all indicators that you might be close to flipping your lid. If you feel the fit about to happen, it's a good idea to walk away, take some deep breaths, and look for an adult to talk to before you flip your lid. It might be a parent, grandparent, coach, or teacher, or another trusted adult nearby. They can help you with strategies to solve the problem once you've calmed down enough for your brain to be ready to do some peaceful problem solving. If you do flip your lid, those same trusted adults can offer you some time and space to cool down before you start to pile themselves together. Once your brain is back in charge, you can share your story and get back some help. Learning more about the brain and how it works can really help us to understand our emotions and to be peaceful problem solvers. When we listen to our bodies and our brains, we can turn the challenges into opportunities to learn and grow. Chapter 7. Mastering Your Own Emotion. One of the most imperative things to truly comprehend and integrate into yourself in order to possess emotional dominance is to realize that you are in control of your feelings. You are absolutely responsible to how you feel at any given minute. Whatever feeling or emotion you encounter, you are the one developing or creating that within yourself. And there are certain things you are doing to create that emotion. Most people want to believe that emotions happen to you, or they happen to us, and they want to look for something to blame it on. Some will say it as a result of the rain, the climate. It's on account that this individual yelled at me. As a result of that, I feel a certain way. This is as a result of my manager. Or it's because I got ripped off and A, B, C happened. That is the reason I am feeling in this manner. That is the number one lie. That is the first illusion that you need to dissipate. It is not valid, And if you believe that and buy into that, then you are coming at this from a victim mindset. And for that reason, you are never going to be able to be fully in charge of your emotions. You are always going to be a casualty, and all those outer things that are outside of yourself are dependably going to impact how you feel. In order to be in charge, or a master of your emotions, you must be a master of meaning. The kind of meaning you associate with an event will be a determining factor on how you are going to feel at every moment. In every happening in your life, the kind of name you give to those situations is what they will manifest in your life. The scripture says, "Every name Adam gave to the animals, that was the name they were called." Therefore, you can decide to be joyful, sad, depressed, and frustrated in that situation. The ball is in your court. In any given minute, you can find a good meaning, a positive meaning, or a negative meaning. It's whatever meaning that you give it. Everything in this life is meaningless until you give it one. Therefore, it is not about the event, but the meaning you associated with it that determines how you feel. You can dwell in a place where you are surrounded by suffering and negative situations and still find meaning, joy, and fulfillment in your life without allowing any external factors to control you. The first thing you must have at the back of your mind is that meaning creates emotion, and you can determine the meaning attached to anything just by asking yourself new questions. For instance, if bad or evil things happen to you, what or who determines whether that thing is bad or not is a result of the meaning you are going to attach to it. In any given experience, ask yourself, what is great about this? What else could this mean? Is there any good I can derive from this? And pressuring yourself to derive good in any situation will drastically change how you feel about it. The same experience can happen to two different people, but the outcome or result will be different. Therefore, it is not the event, but the meaning. And I repeat this, you have control over your emotions. You can change how you feel in an instant. These 3 basic steps will help you be a master of your emotions. Step 1. What you focus on. I have explained this. That which you give your thought to is what you will feel. In every circumstance you find yourself, you are always left with 2 options, either to focus on the good or the bad. Whichever one you choose will determine the outcome. Therefore, have a different approach to situations. Step 2. Mastering your physiology. Every emotion is connected to a certain body or posture that you might have. How you utilize your body language in all things is very crucial. For depression to occur in your life, that means you are going to have your shoulders down, slouched, your voice quiet, your head down. You have low energy and low breathing in your body. By making use of your body in that manner, it's going to make you really depressed and sad. From the other perspective, if you desire to be happy and confident and feel good, then your shoulders should be back, your head up, and a great big smile on your face. Your voice tempo should be changed, how you speak, and the tone of volume of your voice. Your breathing will be in full, your hands, and your gestures. One powerful way to change how you feel is exercise. Training yourself always to have a good posture. That is why exercise is part of my morning ritual. Whatever may occur for the day may not affect me as much because I have laid a good foundation for exercising and engaging my body. Outside of that, It has been proven by science that exercise, smiling, using your body, helps to release endorphins, dopamine, and certain chemicals that cause you to feel good. Therefore, using your body in several ways will change how you feel, and it will empower you to be master of your emotions. Step 3. Language. What you say to yourself, your conviction or belief systems. If you are someone who always speaks negative phrases or words like, "I can't do this, I can't do that, this sucks," you are certainly going to feel bad. There is no way you can have a good feeling. Talking positively about yourself and to others will always change how you feel. One of my most loved methods for changing that is, at whatever point you get yourself saying something negative or sabotaging or restricting, instantly say the opposite. If you found yourself saying, "I can't do this," say, "I can do this." "This whole situation sucks." Say, "I am so happy and delighted that this situation will make way for me." Those 3 fundamental things, your focus, your physiology, and your language, and changing the meaning, are the 3 vital things you need to master to be a master of your emotions. Mastering your emotions may require time because all these habits have been built in you over the years. This is an automatic way of being. The more you condition certain emotional states, certain emotions, certain ways of using your body, the more it becomes automatic and natural for you. And the only way to reverse that is by reconditioning yourself. You can make it a ritual, like me. I spend an hour every morning to paying attention to those things I am excited about. Things that make me proud, give me joy, gazing at my vision, my goals for the day. By doing these things every morning, it helps to recondition me, and I always find myself naturally joyful all throughout the day. I will encourage you to set at least 15 minutes every morning to recondition your body also, by engaging in an exercise like walking or running, or by just dancing or even standing up tall in the morning, so that you can force yourself to have a good body language all throughout the day. The same applies to language, by repeating to yourself aloud certain affirmations, phrases, and belief systems. You will get to a point in your life where you don't need a morning ritual. It has become a natural way of life. Wow! That is now who you are, and I tell you, it is a good place to be. Be in charge of your emotions takes time and practice, but over time you get better and better at it. In conclusion, you can master your emotions. You can change how you feel. You are in control, and you are in charge. Chapter 8. Emotional Intelligence in Relationships. Emotional intelligence in relationships is one of the problem areas that everybody has, because we all have relationships with ourselves, with God, relationships with family, parents, and children, at work, with clients, colleagues, bosses, and employees. All of these have to be dealt with. You have certain strengths and certain weaknesses, and in the same way your partner has certain strengths and certain weaknesses, and you will be attracted and completely excited about the positive things, about the things that you really like in the other one. And that can be like good body, good figure, really keen going out, having a great social life, being well regarded, well respected, everybody wants to be with them, so they appear to be very good in relationships. So that's the good things that you fall in love with. And you know you can sell to your parents that person with all those traits, and you completely ignore that they have no value in money. You know surfing all the time doesn't really earn a lot of money. Work is not very strong, and that's when you start out completely excited at first, and then you swing slowly to the other side when life kicks in, and we know that happens quite naturally. When you have children and rent and earnings and car insurance and all of that coming in, and your partner is not up to the task and doesn't support you and doesn't help, and then you start the process of changing or trying to change the other person, and we all know that's a very difficult job. And that's where we move then into all the different stages. And when you look, nagging is one of the first, and that's usually how we build a wall. The more you nag, the more the other person doesn't hear anything and closes it all down. Whereas, if you praise them for their good things, that's when they open doors, and they appreciate, and they love to be around you, and they think you're cool. And it's really like how we filter the world. Everybody who loves what I love in myself, they're nice people, and those who criticize me in those areas where I'm not really doing well, I don't want to be around them, and that's a normal process for everybody. So opening doors is one thing, but if they don't come up and step up to the task, then that's really challenging, and that's where you go through the process of getting the other one to do what you want them to do. And it starts with encouragement. You're very gentle, very nice. Then, polite advice. You know, this is how you could do it. And then you go into suggestions, and you build up a strategy for them and remind us. And not so friendly reminders like the bank, since you know, like the first reminders, are very kind. Then all of a sudden, they go into threatening gestures. Then you claim, you push in, and you get annoyed. Then you get aggressive and violent, and in the end usually end up disappointed. You walk away. This is really the end stage. The reasons the individual switches into threatening gestures is because the other person doesn't move, doesn't budge, doesn't come along. And it's usually because all your different approaches that you've done don't work. We really would like to be very constructive in a relationship and build it up. A lot of people think that's relationship only has to do with our home environment, with falling in love or having a lifestyle partner. But it goes beyond that. Relationships have to do in every area of life, including our working environment. The beautiful thing about relationships is that everybody wants to look up to someone. Everybody loves people who are successful, who are intelligent, who are wise, and who love themselves, appreciate themselves, and have a purpose in our new mission. And that's where we aspire to be. So these become our idols. These become the people that we want to be around, and we're happy to be in business with them, do business with them. But areas where we are weak, where we have challenges, where things don't work out, we don't want anyone who will dwell on our weakness or point out those things we are not good at. So, we don't always want to be around people who will nag our weakness, but those who know how to use our strength to build the relationship. One of the most fundamental situations is where you always have an underdog and overdog in a relationship. One that is more empowered has more power, more knowledge, has areas in which they are stronger. And the underdog usually has areas where they struggle. They don't really get that kind of recognition. They're not as successful. They don't have money. They don't have the education. And this position of under and overdog is always a challenge, It's always nagging, always pushing. You always feel threatened. And why is that so? Because the person who has more empowerment would like you to grow. It's like people who drink alcohol, and on a low level, they want to pull you down. Drink something with me. Smoke with me. You know, they want to get you to their level. People who have more empowerment want to get you there, and it always starts on that basis of friendly encouragement and nice suggestions. And if you don't budge, if you don't move, or learn how to grow to that same level that they are, then they get slowly annoyed, and in the end they give up. And that's something you don't want. But as soon as you move along, and you even ask them for help, they're happy to move along with you. I hope if you apply this, and you look at your life through that angle, through those glasses, you realize that that's already one of the big changes that will help you to make a relationship work. Instead of being angry and blaming and frustrated and going into all those emotional push-button reactions, use it to your advantage and grow. Those areas you called weaknesses can be worked upon if only you choose to grow with the other person. As mentioned previously in building relationships, in those areas of your weakness, you will be encouraged, giving polite advice, suggestions, reminders, not so friendly reminders, and the person will expect you to grow. And if you listen and follow this 5 things mentioned, then you will build a good relationship in your life and career. But if you don't get along with these things, you will cause the individual to switch to the other side by using claim, pushing, annoyance, aggression, violence, and it will end up in disappointment. The role of emotion in relationship growth. Your relationship will be stronger if you can control your emotions. Also, the ability to manage the emotions of others helps everyone focus on how to make the relationship better. There are rough bumps in the road of relationships, but maintaining happiness will help you to get over them. Don't give the people around you negativity because it destroys the level of positive interaction between the people. Having a positive interaction between people is beyond verbal communication. Studies have proved that couples who pay attention to communication, then the behavioral change, were less happy in their relationships. But those who engaged in the habit of taking positive actions towards one another experienced happier and positive emotions in their relationships. Therefore, involving good manners for your partner will help improve the relationship and enhance trust. When couples start taking each other for granted, they grow apart emotionally. Life and business tend to get in the way, and soon you grow apart. You need to have a high level of emotional intelligence so as to maintain good relationships, because you possess the skills to manage your own emotions and those of your partners. Managing the feelings of your partner. Knowing how to manage the emotions of your partner is extremely beneficial. It will aid your understanding on how to read their emotions better and keep the relationship balanced. For you to do this, firstly, it requires you recognize their emotions. Do you know when your partner is bored, angry, suspicious, frustrated, happy, and embarrassed? What are the ways you can measure their emotional temperature? The following can help you. Be attentive to their tone of voice. Look out for their facial expressions. Read their body language. Find out from them how they are feeling. Be empathetic in your communication. The only way you can stand a chance of managing your partner's emotions is when you are able to read your partner. You need to learn how to deal with their emotions when they are in a negative mood. Some of these tips will help you. When you both engage in a conversation and it is becoming too hot, agree to talk about the issue later when you have both calmed down. Carefully listen without getting defensive. Let your partner know that you care about her concerns. Show empathy and some level of understanding about their feelings. Don't escalate the issue by saying things that will make the situation worse. Confirm with your partner that you have a good understanding of their feelings and situation. Always try to understand the feelings of your partner first before you proffer any solutions. Mostly for women, this is very crucial. Generally, women need to be understood, while men desire solutions. Don't forget that the primary goal is not conflict avoidance, but being able to handle contentious issues in a peaceful and respectful manner. Chapter 9. Conclusion. A lot of people usually underrate the power of emotional intelligence because we tend to emphasize more on intellectual competency. I believe you now have a deep conviction in your heart on how crucial it is to invest in emotional intelligence. This book has aided your understanding on how you can increase your emotional intelligence. The field of emotional intelligence is very broad, and this author has done a great job of getting you started. It is vital you read as many resources that come your way in order to be fully equipped. Don't stop at reading, but engage whatever you have learned in this book and invest in your emotional intelligence. It is a good investment that you will never regret.